Today, let's dive into a really interesting new challenger in the tech world. There's a company called WYNIX, and they've got a super bold plan to take on the absolute giants of the industry by building hardware that, get this, puts you back in control.
I want to start with a question. Think about this for a second. Does your phone really work for you, or do you kind of work for it? I mean, with the endless notifications, all the data it's constantly collecting, the ecosystem that just locks you in. It really does feel like we're serving our devices, doesn't it? Well, WYNIX is betting that millions of us are totally fed up and ready for a change.
And yeah, that feeling, it gets right to the heart of the problem they're trying to solve. You might have paid a lot of money for that shiny phone in your pocket, but do you really, truly own it?
So WYNIX says it all comes down to three huge issues. First, the crazy high cost, and that frustrating thing called planned obsolescence. You know, the feeling that your super expensive phone is basically designed to get slow and feel old, just so you have to buy a new one. Second, the massive, and I mean massive, lack of privacy and control over our own data. And finally, you've got the walled gardens, those closed ecosystems that really limit what you can do and what you can build.
And let's be clear, the stakes here are absolutely enormous. We're talking about a global consumer electronics market that's worth over $500 billion in 2024. This isn't some small niche we're talking about. This is the main event.
And you know what's wild? Inside that massive market, there's this growing sense of unease. A staggering 78% of consumers say they're worried about their privacy. That is a huge chunk of the population that's actively looking for a better, more secure way to do things. And it's not just about privacy either. Just last year, 175 million smartphones were sold to what we call power users and businesses, people who demand way more control. So, you see, there's this huge ready-made audience just waiting.
So, in walks WYNIX. They don't see themselves as just another phone company. No, they see themselves as pioneers for what they're calling Web4, which is basically the next step for the internet, one that's all about decentralization and you, the user, actually owning your stuff.
And their mission statement really says it all. They're not just trying to sell you another sealed black box. They want to create an open platform that empowers everyone, developers, creators, regular users, to build their own future on their own terms.
This brings us right to the core of their entire philosophy. It's a really simple but powerful idea that's designed to push back against every single one of those problems we just talked about.
Okay, so their solution? It's this powerful three-part promise. First, own your hardware. That means affordable devices that are built to last, not designed for a 2-year upgrade treadmill. Second, own your data, giving you the actual tools for real security and self-hosting. And third, build your future, providing open, modular devices that can spark all kinds of new innovation.
You know, this whole idea of owning your data is so important, it actually has a name: data sovereignty. It's this simple, but kind of revolutionary idea that your digital information belongs to you, period. Not to the tech giants who sell it or the advertisers who target you with it. You should have the final say. It's like the digital deed to your life.
All right, so the big vision sounds great, right? But how do they actually make it happen? Let's take a look at the actual products they're building to pull this off. And this is where their strategy gets really smart. It's a two-pronged attack. First up, you have the W4 phone Gen 1. They're calling it the People's Smart Device. At around $200, it's all about making privacy and true ownership affordable for everybody. But then, on the other end, you have the Gen 2. This thing is the enterprise powerhouse. At around $2,000, it's basically a mini server in your pocket, built for businesses and serious power users who need the ultimate level of control and security. And here they are. You can get a look at the hardware itself. You can really see the different design approaches for each market, but you can tell both devices are built on those exact same core ideas of ownership and control. And get this, they're not just stopping at phones. They've already said they're planning a W4 notebook, which shows they're thinking bigger. They want to build an entire ecosystem of devices that actually respect the user.
So, they've got the vision, check. They've got the products, check. But let's be real. How on earth does a brand new company even begin to compete in a market that's dominated by some of the biggest corporations on the entire planet?
Well, their whole strategy is about carving out their own unique space. They're positioning themselves to challenge the big, expensive guys like Apple and Samsung by saying, hey, we can give you more freedom for way less money with our Gen 1 phone. But at the same time, they're going after the budget brands like Xiaomi by offering way better data sovereignty and control. See? They're not trying to beat the giants at their own game. They're trying to create a totally new one.
And all of this brings us to the ultimate question. It's a great story, right? A classic David versus Goliath, but does this challenger actually have what it takes to change the game for real?
When you boil it all down, their entire bet rests on these three pillars: pricing that actually makes privacy accessible to normal people, real data sovereignty through self-hosting, and an open modular platform that could lead to the kind of innovation that those closed ecosystems just can't allow.
And you've got to love the confidence here. This little line from their pitch deck, it just shows they really believe their list of advantages is way longer than what we've talked about. It's a pretty cheeky, but I think effective way of saying, yeah, we know we have a winning formula.
So, what do you think? Is WYNIX intense focus on ownership, privacy, and openness the actual future of our electronics? Or are the walls that the big guys have built just too high to climb? It's going to be a fascinating battle to watch, and really, it forces all of us to ask what we truly want from the tech that we use every single day.